Hello and welcome to this presentation of the SlimCD hosted payment pages look and feel. In this presentation we're going to show you how to control the look and feel of a hosted payment page on the SlimCD environment. A little bit of information about our company. We've covered that in many of the other videos, so I'm going to focus right down on the forms. The forms contain pages of information that control the graphics and the logo, etc., and around the pages are surrounded around the form itself, which is the input fields, etc. The page's background color and logos will appear on all the screens, and the headers and footers will do the same. They surround the form. There's also a concept of something called a template. While we also have templates of whole forms designs, these particular templates are specific items that get merged into a specific form, and they support a mail merge type functionality where additional data can be merged in at runtime, and I'll show you how that works in a bit. Form fields themselves, input fields, typable, name, address, etc., can be styled and have JavaScript associated with them, etc. So we'll cover a lot of that as well. So the basics and what most folks can get most of their functionality from is the simple edit form design, which controls the whole page, and that includes the title text that comes at the top of the browser, page colors, margins, and centering, whether you want it centered, slammed, or whether you want a little margin around it, things like that, link colors, table widths, default page elements. You can put different text on by default, privacy URLs, etc. And again, the same with the table colors and styles, images and table cell classes, and the form, the whole page's font and face color. So let's take a quick look at some of that now. I'm going to log into our website with just one of our test accounts. This happens to be on an internal website, but the same thing's available on the regular developer pages. If I click on sessions and I manage my forms, it'll list all the forms I have available. So let's start with a simple form, this simple form. I can view the form itself with the show form button. And you see this is a pretty simple form. It has a card number and expiration date of CVV2. It's got a black border around it, and it actually has a couple of custom fields on it, one called Field 6, and it has a checkbox as well. So that's a basic form. It's not slammed. You can see the little border edge at the top. The title of the form would appear here. There isn't one, so it's coming out to just our URL. The background color is white. The table color is white. It's just basic, simple defaults for everything. We can come back, and if we click on Edit Form, in here we'll see there is no title text. I could have added title text. This is the title. If I can spell. If I had a logo, you can put a logo in here. One thing to remember, if you're going to host the logo on your server, you'll need an HTTPS connection, so you'll need to install an SSL certificate on your server and then put in the full www.yoursite.com/logo.jpg or whatever it happens to be. So you can put in the full URL. Alternatively, if you don't have an SSL certificate, we can host logos and style sheets and things for you. Just let us know. Here's the page background color. If you wanted an image on the whole page, same rules apply as the logo here. Links, so the clickable links on the page, there's how you specify the colors. Do you want normal margins or eliminate the margins on the browser altogether? And how do you want the page displayed? Left justified at the top left corner or centered on the page? How big do you want the table? And there's a few things you can have displayed on the page for you automatically. If it's an environment where your own cashiers or clerks are entering data, you may want to display the site name. If it's consumer facing, you don't. If you have a privacy policy URL, same HTTPS rules should go here. And whether or not you want Google's reCAPTCHA automatically displayed. The table that's inside the form, you can control the colors here. And here's your font information. So this covers most of the basic information you'd need. Notice when we display error messages, here's the color. A little asterisk shows you which fields are mandatory, and then if we're graying or disabling something, what color do you want for that? So those are the basics for this form, and I've changed this title, so let me save it just to show that that worked. So if I come down again and show the form, now up here it says this is a title. In addition, the form is still the same. I'm going to move to a slightly different form that has a little bit more activity on it, and that's the retail checkout form I've got here. So if I show this form, you can see they've put a logo on it, and they've changed the background image with this graduated screen, and it's simply got some same card number fields. It's also got a description, room rate that they would merge in at runtime to rent property, and all this is done simply through putting a title page, and here are the two background images and paths to the logos. That's all they've done, and they did change the table border color, but the rest is the same. So you can do quite a bit to bring your branding into a page just on this form. Let's take a look at this form. It's got a page background color, and that's about it. So if we'll show it, it's a simple form. They've got some extra form fields on here. Again, we'll cover how to add form fields and customize them, etc. on a different video. That gives you a great example of the things just from this one control panel you can do to give some branding and some look and feel to your form. Now, headers versus templates. I've talked a bit about that we support the mail merge functionality inside templates, and there are two distinct areas where a designer can add some information to the page and control the graphics. So let's take a look at some of those and give you a lot of information and insight into the differences there. So I'm going to start with a form that I call sample HTML, and if we show this form, I've used this just to show all the areas where you can merge stuff in of your own design. So the header controls what goes on the top and what goes on the left side. Then the footer is the right side closing, think of a closing div tag on the bottom. So this is a table surrounding this table in the middle. And inside, these are table headers and templates. A template can have mail merge in it, as I mentioned, so the table headers go above in this information, the table footers go afterwards, yet the form, the page header goes here and here, and the footer is here and here. So we'll take a look at how that works. At the headers, I have simply, in the head tag, I can put some information, and this is a great place to put JavaScript, style sheets, etc. The body tag is actually inside the body tag. So when you type something in here, this is actually going to be part of the body tag. So in the case of a body tag, this part is already generated for you. You're typing in here, and there is a closing greater than sign that will be generated for you as well. So be very careful inside the body tag that the things you put here are elements that go for the body itself. You're actually inserting stuff into the body tag itself. Now, I'll show you a great way to tell where things go and what happened, why things don't work in a minute when we cover debugging a little bit. So the body tag is one of the areas you have to be careful. I like to put comments in here so I know where things are going, and I'll show you why in a minute. And here I've created my own table around the form and changed the color, and I've said here's the header and here's some more rows for it, and this is what we see on the form. The footer is what closes out that table. Now inside the table that the system generates, you can also put additional information. So here's where I put the table's header and the table's footer, and let's again go back and take a look at that. So this is the header that I created by creating this gray table, and here's the left side of that gray table. Because this is a table, I can do that, and I just made this a column, and I made this, let the form go into a column, and then when I closed it out, I made this a column, and I put stuff down here as well. So again, this can all be done a couple of rows here. This is another big row here where the form's in the middle of it, and here's two more rows at the bottom. You can control all that yourself. You can use div tags instead of tables, whatever you prefer. If you put information in the table header or footer, it will go inside the table we create up at the top or down at the bottom, and it's actually inside of the form table. So our forms are created in tables. Templates, on the other hand, work a little bit differently, and I'll show you an example in this particular case of the templates. So here I've got text inside the template. The template assumes you're already in a table tag, and they must be formatted as follows. You have a TR, a TD with your prompt text, another TD with the field or the value, and a TR. So if you want to add your own fields and things like that, you can do that here, but you have to be a little careful. These fields should be done for display only or mail merge, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second here. And you can also span both columns, but put graphics in or whatever you like. Anything in here, as I've been mentioning, can support mail merge. Let's take a look at that. Here's an example of the receipt template. You see these things in square brackets. These are mail merge fields. There's a number of automatic ones, and here's the list of all the ones the system will generate for you. But in addition to this list, anything that you send in, you can have displayed on the page, and I'll show you that a little further as we get into a little bit of data handling. But for the most part, most folks just use graphics in here. You can change the labels here, and these do support mail merge as well. And here is a NACHA agreement for if you're taking checks. The NACHA is the check processing authority, and here's the language for them. And this is the footer, the post template. So you have a pre-template and a post template, and those appear inside the table that's already started for you, and then before the ending table tag right here. We'll go back and take a look at those. So here's the pre-text template, and I actually happen to put a button in there as well. And then here's a post-text template. Maybe you want to put in some code to calculate sales tax or whatever you want to do. You can do some stuff in there and run some JavaScript. And then the post template goes here. So one of the important things that I've been showing you is where things go on the page, but there are some nice ways to do that. You'll notice that in my HTML for some of these things, I've been putting a lot of comments. So let's take again a look at my headers, and I have a comment here in the head tag, and here I have the header text as a comment. Why do I do this? One of the great things I can do, and a great technique that I recommend all the time, is when I click on Show Form, I can right-click and view the source on the page. Now that I'm viewing the source, in this case it actually brought the debugger as well, I can now search to find the comments I've put in. I can look for that header text, I can look for those comments, and I can find where things go. So there's a lot of code that our system generates in here, but you'll also find the things that you've merged in. Let's see if I can do a quick search. So here's the header text comment that I put in, and here's the header, etc. So in the head, I also remember I mentioned the body tag opens for you and closes for you. So whatever you put in the body header is going to go right in here. So it's going to go in between right here. So you can put in whatever you want to modify the body tag itself. Give it a style, give it a class, whatever you want to do. Here's where I put the head tag, which goes before I close the head. So you can include style sheets, JavaScript, inline JavaScript, whatever you want to do can be merged into the head tag. So we're giving you these placeholders so that you can dynamically merge in the information to control the style of the page. Use the comments and things like that to identify where you're putting things on the page. One thing to be careful of, as you're using these comments, make sure you're closing the comment out, because if you start a comment and you don't close it properly, or you start a tag, say you start your own table and you don't end it with a closing HTML mark, the browsers may chew a lot of the text that follows as part of that tag, and you can throw off the whole display. You can inactivate buttons, and again, your standard debugger here can help you find any issues. So feel free to use the debuggers built in the browsers as well as view source to identify challenges in the page that you've generated. So I've talked here about where the headers go, where the templates go, and the view source and the debugging techniques. And here's some more about the debugging, and I've covered a lot of this. No closing tags, leaving comments open. JavaScript errors are also one that can throw your page off if you put JavaScript in incorrectly using the body header. Remember, I've already showed you you're putting text inside the body tag that's already open for you, so you don't have to you can't put any HTML opening and closing tags in there. You can only merge in tags or styles that you want to go on that body. So show form and place keywords in the comments so you can search for them is a really handy technique to find the sections. So how do you style things? You can place CSS style sheets in the head, as we've already covered. In JavaScript, you can load jQuery or other things like that that'll do some styling for you. You can use CSS to override standard HTML items, standard CSS stuff. You can put div tags in and give them IDs and styles and use that to control some of the things that happen outside the form or even inside in those headers and footer areas that I've shown you. We keep you away from the card number field, but we give you a lot of other places you can merge stuff in. So when you create individual fields, there's also a placeholder when creating a field that you can put some style sheets. So let's take a look at that. I'll go back to the form, and I'm going to, well, before that, I do want to go back and show you a template form. Let's look at the template form. The template form here has information at the top and the bottom. These are headers and footers, and I have, in the post template, I've created a whole bunch of information that I just put on the text. Now here you'll see this says var1. That's a mail merge field. Had I added a value for var1, you'll see that's displayed. If I were to also add one, now I've mail merged the form when it displays this. We recommend doing that on create session, not on the show session call. This just happens to be a shortcut that's showing the sessions inside our own thing. You would not display sessions this way. Look at the documentation on how to create session and how to preload information into forms, and that's how you would set those fields to get mail merged on here. So you can do a lot with that, and I strongly suggest that when you need to take advantage of it. It's not something you'll need all the time. Most of the folks, just the regular form itself will do everything you need. So let's go back to form fields. See if there's any fields on here. We have a test tooltip field. If we're to edit this field, you can see a lot of information goes in here, but style and class. So you can put a class name in, and you can put a style in. So here you just put your style information in for inline HTML syntax, and here you're putting this between the quotes. The quotes will be generated for you, the style quotes. So you just put the information in, and it'll generate those two tags for you on any individual field on the page. So let's go look at something that has some more fields on it. Say we've looked at this RX Caliber again. Let's list its fields. It's got a bunch of fields. So here on the first name field, if we wanted to edit the first name field, we could put a style and a class, and then when we show that form, that first name will get styled accordingly. So just some things you can do. Suggest that you play with those as you need to. They're available when you need to use them. So using templates, I've covered a lot about the templates already. It is important to know that if you're creating templates that get merged into the form, then you want to make sure you use your TR and TD rows correctly and close them with TR and TD, just like the example shows you on the templates page. I'll show that again. So it tells you it's in a TR. Here's an example of things you can do. Do something like that or do something like that. So make sure you open and close your TRs and TDs, because they will be part of the table that we're generating. So in that case, it is a table. Now, if you just wanted to make one big TR/TD and put your own div tags in here and do whatever you wanted in here, you're welcome to do whatever you like. The email template, when doing mail merge inside a template, anything you put in a square bracket will be a variable that you will load in with a create session call, and then that variable will be replaced. If you do not send that variable, it's going to appear just like you see it right there in the middle of your page. So you want to make sure that you get your names correct here to what's being sent by the developer on the create session call. It's a great way to display information that maybe doesn't have anything to do with payment processing, and you've seen some cases here where they talk about hotel reservation, requests, I want a king size bed, or other type of information like that. You can mail merge all that stuff in on the payment page if you so desire. The email template's a special case. This one doesn't have an email template. Let's see if we can get one that does. Let's just pick one of these. So here, this is a standard one that we generate, a standard payment receipt. You can put other information in here if you want to get rid of the session ID off of there. It's useful sometimes if someone sends you an email about a receipt to know which session ID it is, so you can search for that in our sessions. But here you can see they put a nice comment. We look forward to seeing you at the beach. You can put whatever type of comment you want in there. Thank you for doing business with us, and you can mail merge in any of these fields or any of the fields that you happen to send in your create session call. That's another great reason to send information on a create session if you want to put it on the receipt, such as their check-in date and checkout date, or maybe the products they purchased. Whatever you'd like to put, you can mail merge in here. So let's take another look at a couple of forms before I move on and talk about the developer's website. There are some really fancy forms, and I've shown you the template one already, but here is an example of a really fancy form that someone has done, and you can tell how nice they've changed the graphics and the fonts, and they've styled things, and they've put in their own graphics, headers and footers, etc. Page backgrounds. And another great example that really shows a lot about the mail merge, if I can find it. Right here is the invoice form. This one has a number of mail merged fields inside here, but look how they've changed this form to look like an invoice. So you've got the merchant's information that gets merged in, and they have a broken link for the logo here, but here would be the billing company's information would come in here, invoice numbers, date of invoice, amount due. They put in a lot of information in here, subtotals, amount paid, and the total amount would come down here, and they type in the information, and they would pay this invoice online. We actually use in our own invoicing system hosted payment pages in a fashion very similar to this, and this was probably one of the early prototypes for that. So in our own invoicing system, if I list the invoices, and I'll select one and show the invoice, this is a hosted payment page that we've styled, and we're performing the mail merge into that with all the information necessary. All this block at the bottom is all generated by the software automatically based on the fields we want displayed for the user. It can either display a card on file or let you replace it. That's all built into the hosted payment pages. You don't have to do any of that, but all this is graphically done with the logos and line items and the total amount of totals. So all that's available to you, so you can certainly do quite a bit. And one quick thing I'm going to touch on before we go has to do with data validation fields. There is a validation form that will give you an example of some of the things that you can validate. Here's a sample fields form. If you show this, it will show you all the different types of fields we support. I'm going to cover it in detail what all these are and how to use them in the other video. And validation lets you do validation on all the fields. It tells you what types of validation we can do. And again, I will have the next video is going to completely cover all the data fields. So if you're interested in the data fields from the development point of view and how to use those to your advantage, we'll cover that next. In the meantime, we do have the developer's website that has a lot of resources and information on it. And one of the things I'd like you to do, if you're interested in hosted payment pages and learning how a lot of this works, is come to our developers download page, stats.slimcity.com developers downloads. If you click on the SlimCity SDKs, the Secure Sessions SDK has a full manual that shows you how to use all these forms that I've been showing you as well, and talks about the create session and the session flow, etc. So take a good look at that, and that'll give you a lot of information. Of course, on our regular developers websites are all the entry points for developers to call from PHP and JSON, so you can create your session here, and it talks about how you create extra fields that don't have anything to do with payment processing and send those in, these user-defined fields. Those are the things you'd mail merge into your templates if you wanted to. So take a look through that manual, download the zip file, and there's plenty of examples in there. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to chatting with you in some of our upcoming videos.